Hey, I'm Mike Yanessa. Welcome to another episode of Car Stories. If you haven't seen Car Stories, you can go to the internet and Google it. It's on YouTube. We have our own channel. Or go to thepctvnetwork.com. You can view all our shows. This show started years ago, and I came up with the name Car Stories because I was spending the weekend at Carlisle, and everyone came up to me and kept telling me their story about their car they had. And that's how I came up with the name. From month to month, we do things on collision, we do things on service work. I show you cars in the shop. But this month, we have two guests, and we have a great car story about a very special 59 Corvette. So with us tonight is Joe Richardson, who owns the car now, and the guy he bought it from, Jim Crombach. And they're going to talk about this special 59 Corvette. We have pictures. The car is actually going to be going up for sale. So just a really special car. Joe, why don't you start by telling us about this car that you had for how many years?
30 years now.
30 years
yes.
He's owned the car. And he bought it from you?
He bought it from me.
And how long did you own it?
I had it 6 years.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years, I guess. Yeah.
So this is really cool stuff here on a great Corvette.
We had our first order. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you remember stuff,
yep.
right? Yeah. So these car stories never end, so listen to this one.
Yeah, no. I have a history, personal history with this car going back to 1975. Back in 1975, car shows weren't that common. They were far and few between, so it was a really special thing to have a car show in the area. So Bryner Chevrolet over in Jenkintown would have a classic Chevy show, usually in March or so. Mm-hmm. And then in June, they would have a Corvette show. And they drew Corvettes from tri-state area far away. There would be, thousands of cars there.
Yep.
And it was
an
amazing
there like
thing.
78.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was something to see at the dealership, you know?
It was.
So, yeah.
At the show in 1975, I was walking up and down the rows of cars, and I came across this white with turquoise 59. And wow, to me, I mean, I've always been a car guy ever since I was about 2 years old, model cars, the whole thing. But when I saw this car, I mean, unfortunately, we were unable to bring the car tonight because of weather and Pennsylvania thunderstorms.
We were going to have the car here for you to look at, but we with the rain and the storm, we got pictures. We got plenty of pictures and plenty of memorabilia. So it is a special car.
I had a Corvette prior to that. I had a 68 that I did a full restoration on.
See, I didn't know that.
I'll have to fill you in on that one.
Okay.
But I never forgot this car from the day I saw it. And I guess it was in 1986, fall of October of 1986. I was in an NCRS sponsored show down at the former Penske Chevrolet in King of Prussia. Mm-hmm. And in the shop inside where all the show cars were parked, I was parked next to this same car, the same 59 Corvette.
With your Corvette?
With my red 68.
You still had the 68?
Yeah, I still had the 68.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, hey, I remember this car. I haven't seen it in years. So Jim and I became great friends, and I told Jim, you ever go to sell that car.
If you ever want to sell it, that old
line.
At least 20 times, right?
Right?
Yeah, at least.
Oh, this guy keeps bugging me. He wants to buy my car.
You know what? It really showed me how much he loved the car.
Yeah.
And I love the car. As a matter of fact, I had been at the Bucks County Car Show. My dad had a 1928 Buick he used to show.
Oh, wow.
Grand Touring, beautiful car.
Mm-hmm.
But we were up at the Bucks County Car Show, and I think it was at the high school in those days.
Okay.
And here's this beautiful Corvette there. And I said, Dad, boy, I would really love to have that. We had just gotten a new house.
Right.
I decided, I'll never be able to get that. I'll tell you what. We called my sister, who was 15 years older than me. She loaned me some money. My dad loaned me some money.
No kidding.
Which I paid back pretty quickly, but
right.
I was able to buy my
that
dream
car.
car. Now, I had a 70 that earlier, and that's when I first went to the Del Val show. Mm-hmm. In fact, in 1978, I was probably at that show sleeping there overnight watching the cars, as you know,
that's what
when
you
we
were
running the show at
right.
Bryner's. But this car, it drove beautifully. I had some wonderful, and it was just a looker. Everybody came up to it, and was everything about it. You
Yeah.
know exactly
Yeah.
what I mean.
Oh, yeah, it just,
I once
spellbound.
went to a car show in Ocean City, New Jersey, and I loved the show because after the show they give you go up on the boardwalk and parade down the boardwalk. There's no better place to be, I'm telling you, than a Corvette convertible on the boardwalk
Oh, my.
at the shore. You know?
Yes.
yeah.
Well, there were 7 59s at that show. Now, I've been to a lot of shows. There were 58s, there were 60s, but not many 59s. So we were all comparing, what was correct in our cars.
Yeah, yeah.
One guy tried to tell me there were no sun visors then, and somebody else said, oh, yeah, it was an option. And,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
things like that. Yeah, you wouldn't think sun visors would be an option. But there were so many. It was really neat. We were comparing our carpets, and we figured the carpets must have changed midway, which is, as I
Which is
turned out
true,
with
they
my
did.
research, it did.
Yeah.
It was just so much fun to be there. In fact, one guy, you know how a lot of car shows, there's always one guy there that's not a real nice guy who'll tell the judge what's wrong with your car.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, my trunk was open, and he's telling them that board, the cardboard bulkhead that's right behind your seat. Now, look how crummy that looks. He said, and all this. This other guy comes up to me and he says, you see that? That's the way it's supposed to look.
That's original.
That's
That's
the
right.
way they're original. His is a repro.
Yeah.
But, the car was just, I could drive it anywhere and
Right.
feel comfortable with it. And the fact that it was a 59, at the time, Philadelphia still had that oldies channel, and they were still playing 50s songs. Now an oldies song is a 70s song, but they were playing 50s songs then, and it was so cool to have my Wonder Bar radio on in it
Yes.
and listen to 50 songs.
Well, the tubes gave it a certain
Yeah, it did.
depth
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's
Super
true
radio.
what Joe said. I just want to point out that back then there was far and few car shows. There was a few a year. Now there's take your pick each weekend. And the Corvette people kind of started this whole judging thing on correct carpet, mid-production, the things that he's saying, spilled over into the rest of the car world. And today every car is judged by originality and mid-production and early and late. And it is difficult. I don't go up to a car at a show and say that cardboard looks like crap and
I'm
it's
sure
not
you
correct,
do. Yeah.
because it might be. I mean, I don't know enough to say
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So it is today we really judge these cars because they are so different, each one of them. Where they were built, who built them, what color they were, and this one has this rare teal interior.
Yeah,
turquoise teal.
very few. I have books and books and books here with all the facts and figures, but it was maybe 465 or something like that.
Cars.
Were built
Wow.
with that turquoise interior, which we have a clearer picture of. And most of those cars were built turquoise with
So the turquoise and white.
is very rare.
Is,
yeah, yeah. And to me, that you can't get more
it screams
50s.
50s too.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and you always see a red interior, black interior. You're never
Yeah.
going to see another one. So that makes it really cool.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people would probably wonder, why did I sell it?
Yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah,
good.
I wonder that myself sometimes right now. But
Right.
we had our first order, as I said,
Right.
and I figured, well, it's only a 2-seater, and we could use some money to pay off some of the credit cards and things like that as usual. So
Right.
I put it up for sale just with a sale sign, went to a couple car shows, and there were some people that would come in and offer me, like I was originally asking. Well, Joe had asked me, and he said, how much do you want for it? And I told him how much I wanted. Well, people were telling me that they would give me $5,000 more for it. I had a lawyer from Chestnut Hill who was buying them for a client or something like that. Didn't even know it was fiberglass. Somebody else didn't.
Wow.
You could tell they didn't know anything about Corvettes. But
Right.
Joe, I knew he had loved the car.
Right.
His wife and he would come up to me and say, Jim, look, if you ever sell it, I had already given him a price that I would sell it for.
I had my wife's cousin working on you too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And it worked because, I love the car so much that I wanted it to have a good home. And I think
Right.
a lot of us that have had classic cars like that think in the same
And
way.
that's really a car guy thing. It's
Yeah.
not about
Yeah.
the money.
And-
It's about
Right.
where's it going to go, how's it going to
Right.
get taken care of, and a little bit about the money. But money's not
Just a
first.
little bit,
you
yeah.
know?
Right.
Because if you know somebody's going to hack it
Right.
up or ruin it, It wouldn't matter how much money. You know?
And I have to say, Joe must have told me 1,000 times, "Thank you for selling me the car."
Yeah.
And all that. I mean, I knew I made the right choice. And he said, "Anytime you want to come up and drive it, you know, you're welcome to."
Did you take him up on that? You didn't take him up on
Not
that?
yet, but I'm going to before he sells it.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah. A lifetime friendship, you know, a car story over a 59 Corvette. Really cool.
And
Yeah, and-
so I'd like you better go on and tell about your history. And then I have a presentation to make to Joe
Okay.
I can't wait to see what this is.
when we're done.
But yeah, I mean, I've always tried to do some history on the car. I tried over the years fruitlessly to find out who had it before Jim. There were some rumors of different people, but about 2 years ago, I listed the car on the Corvette registry, and specifically on the C1 registry, which, by the way, I despise that term. There was never any such thing as a C1 Corvette. That's something that's developed over the
Yeah,
years.
that's the slang. That
But-
means the first year, that's
Yeah,
53 to 62, they called a C1, and then C2, C3. Now we're up to what, 7?
Right.
But yeah, that's what he's referring to, the C1.
Yeah, but I put it on the registry, and on this registry you put the VIN number, photos, some history about the car. And I received a phone call from Mr. John Rogers, who bought the car in 1974. And when he called me, he says, "I know you're going to think this is some crazy guy calling you about your car, but I have information that only somebody who could have owned that car would know." And he was absolutely right. Each car has its own little idiosyncrasies, little details here and there. And for example, this car had, when he bought it, it had dual exhaust coming out under the bumper, which was not right. And they had cherry bomb exhaust and so forth. And someone had welded brackets to the frame. And he told me exactly where to look for those brackets. And I said, "No, I know they were there. I saw them. I could never figure out where they came from." Other little details like the cove behind the grab bar is actually from a 1960. Always wondered what was that doing there. It was a mystery. Jim always wondered the same thing. Well, when Mr. Rogers owned the car from 74 to 77, he did a pretty extensive appearance restoration on it. He had the interior redone, and he put that cove in because he liked the way it looked better. That was typical back then.
Yeah.
People weren't so concerned with having a car 100% correct.
Original,
They
just-
did what they liked.
Yeah, right.
And he bought mostly all new old stock trim and chrome for the car. Rear bumpers, front bumpers, all the side cove trim here, windshield pillars, all the stainless. Yeah, he put a lot of, when I say new old stock, that was brand new parts from a Chevy dealer at the time in 1974 and 75.
And at the time, there were no repro parts.
No,
yet.
there were
No.
no reproductions
Nope,
at all.
there wasn't.
Yeah.
But the interior.
The interior, again, they offered no reproductions. So he had this interior completely stitched up by hand,
Wow.
actually at a marine shop.
The man was an artist.
Yeah.
If you look at the stitching on that, he
beautiful.
met the exact contour of the originals, which were molded.
Right.
But it's absolutely gorgeous. And it wasn't something, I think that was the thing. Why did it still have, a handmade interior instead of somebody putting in a repro? It's too beautiful to change.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like a work of art when
It
you look
is.
at it today.
It is.
And that's what they
And
did
it's-
back then. You have to realize it's a good point. There
Yeah.
wasn't catalogs, there wasn't, carpet and a couple little things, but for the most part, it was either new old stock or used. And it was, people build cars, go to flea markets, buy a used hubcap, buy a used molding. You just didn't call up and use your credit card and
Right.
wait for it to come in the mail. And it's all made in America too back then. So that's neat that it was built with GM parts and handmade the interior.
Yeah, and that solved the mystery that both Jim and
Both
I
of us.
Yeah.
had
Right.
for years. Like, where did this interior come from? So he cleared that up. He cleared up a lot of other mysteries about the car that only someone who had it those years could have known. We Mr. Rogers and I spoke for, I guess about an hour and a half, maybe longer than that.
Right.
And he gave me further history on the car. It was originally from California. And he knew that because he bought the car from Sheldon Chrysler Plymouth in New Jersey, right over the bridge from
Yeah, I remember
Philadelphia.
that. Yeah, the name. Mm-hmm.
And it was typical of new car dealers at that time to put which were called back then performance cars or Corvettes, special cars
Right.
that they would buy from the West Coast that were in exceptional shape, and they'd sell them in this area for a good profit. Now, Mr. Rogers paid $4,000 in March of 1974 for the car. When he bought it and took it home, he noticed that there was a gas station service sticker in the door jamb. So he called that number and discovered it was from Englewood, California.
Wow.
And they remembered the car, and they said a police officer in Englewood, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, had owned the car for a number of years. And he bought it from a guy in San Francisco.
Jeez.
And it was
that's
actually a parking lot ticket in the trunk from
Right.
San Francisco. So we know the car
Yeah,
came
everything's
from,
lining up.
everything's lining
Yep,
up.
yep.
And that would explain too. I did a complete mechanical restoration of the car back in 2006, 2008 era. And when I disassembled everything, I was amazed at just how dry and rust-free and straight that frame was.
Yeah.
And I think this didn't come from Pennsylvania because,
No.
as with old Corvettes, they're a fiberglass body, but the frame is steel, and they do rust.
They do
That's
rust.
a serious problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like completely free of rust. So again, that answered that question, that mystery. How could this be? So I learned so much from that conversation, and I'm in total debt to Mr. Rogers for coming forward and taking the time to explain it. He actually presented a document to me here, a signed document with it's like 4 pages long. We're not going to read this to you now because it will
But
probably take
telling
me,
the story about the
telling the story, the entire story about
That's
the
really
car
cool.
and everything he did to it.
That's
the
cool
full
because
history.
sometimes old owners don't want to talk to people.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you guys remained
Right.
friends. He remained friendly. Bill Clemens, my good friend from Warriors Forge, trying to track down the history on that Camaro in Ohio, and he found the guy, and the guy won't talk to him. And it's just like, I just want to, if you have any paperwork, anything. But
Yeah.
It sort of says something about the car, though.
yeah.
You know, that everybody that's owned this car seems to have loved this car.
Yes.
Yeah, it's had a
yes. and
positive-
they're sharing.
Enough
Yeah.
to share
yeah.
the information and to keep the
cool.
information all
Yeah.
these years. you
And
know?
to take the time to write you a letter.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And Mr. Rogers also revealed who he sold the car to, and that was Mr. Jim Herr of Herr's Potato Chips. And I
Oh,
ched
wow.
him. Yeah,
That's cool.
I called Jim Herr. Great guy.
Here's another one.
Again,
See?
another one.
Another story.
We had another half-hour-long phone call about the car, and when he owned it, again, he loved it just as much as we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was happy to hear that it still existed. I sent him some photos of it, and he said he'd like to see it again someday. So that's yet to be arranged. But it adds so much to it, and that all these years.
Yeah.
I mean, we may never know who the original owner
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
but to go back
You're
to
pretty far back.
Well,
pretty
you
far
were
back,
saying
yeah.
that Mr. Rogers, when he saw pictures of the car, said, it's exactly the way I
Yeah.
remembered it.
Yeah, he did.
You know,
he-
nobody's changed it.
Right.
You know, which is really amazing. Cause
Right. That nobody hot rodded it or painted it a different color or You're
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, including the coves. Now, let me explain something about those turquoise coves. These were never built in the factory like that. That would have been either silver or solid white, a silver cove or solid white. And it was typical of a car like this that people, after they had it, maybe even at the dealership when they were new, they would change the cove to match the interior. Quite
Yeah.
often you've seen white Corvettes with a red interior,
Yes.
a red
Right.
cove.
But that's not correct.
That's
not correct.
Yep, but it
And
looks nice.
It
and
looks nice. And
separates it from the other cars.
yeah,
Mhm.
I used to show this extensively. I gave up on the show scene pretty much these days, but it would never fail. Someone would always come up to me and say, "Hey, that's not correct." I'm like, I know, but it's how the car
It
would have
looks
looked
great.
in
Looks good.
1962. You know,
Yep.
after it was owned for a few years and
Good.
someone changed it to suit themselves.
All right. Well, I'm dying to see what he has, Joe.
Yeah, I
So
can't wait.
We
Keep
can't
me in
wait
suspense
anymore.
any longer.
Jim, what's this presentation, as you say?
Well, my wife knew I had loved this car, and she sort of felt a little guilty guilting me out to sell it.
Right, right.
So a fellow.
What'd you sell it for? Like, let me ask that. A station wagon? No, no.
Oh, what
no.
I get?
Yeah, what'd you buy? Like
I wanna know.
a Pinto wagon or a van?
Yeah, Chrysler van.
Chrysler van?
A fellow that she worked
Wow. Oh, my.
with did airbrushing. And he, from a picture that my wife had given him, had done this for me. And I can't think of anybody better. You've owned this car longer than I have. The car's more yours than mine, although I still will say it's our Corvette.
Yeah,
And
oh
I've
yeah,
said
that
for
goes
many
without
years.
saying.
So
Well,
Joe, that's for you.
That's
thank
cool.
you, Jim.
So you can remember
Thank
it.
you.
That's
is-
really nice, Jim.
That really is. That is beautiful. Can you see
got the
that?
shot? Yep.
Okay. Wow.
really
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Couldn't think of anybody better.
I'll
That's an
have to
artist, too, there to do that. That
Thank
looks like-
Nancy for me as well.
Got the colors right and everything.
He did. He did. That is just. Wow. That's going to be in a prominent location in my house.
Yes. See if it'll go above the couch and then let me know where it winds.
Yeah, maybe the first night.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Wow.
The
Very
car,
nice.
did you tell him that the car was actually a centerfold?
Yes, it was. In several, it was featured in several magazines. We'll,
Before we owned it.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah. Actually, let's see. We'll start with when John Rogers owned it. It was featured in Corvette News.
I used to get that.
Yeah, yeah. This was actually published by General Motors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you bought a Corvette any year, you got
I got
a
yeah.
subscription.
My first one was a '69, and I remember getting that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I haven't seen that book in years.
Yeah, and
There it is.
there it is, right there with the description by John Rogers and his name, address, and so forth. And you'll notice
That's cool.
in the photo, the car has a hardtop. That unfortunately was separated by the, I guess it was the owner after Jim Herr. Jim Herr sold it to Bob Gold, who was a
Right.
noted collector in,
Yep. Corvette guy.
yeah, Corvette guy. He was actually instrumental in the auction portion of Bloomington Gold. Bloomington Gold's not named after him, I'll make that clear.
No,
But
yeah.
he did
Oh.
begin the auction section. He sold the hardtop from the car separately. He's the one that also had it painted. It was painted once, and that was in 1988. Okay, 1978. I'm corrected.
1978, right.
And it still has that.
You bought it in '86.
No,
No.
I bought it in
89.
89. Yes,
89,
it's 30
okay.
years. 30 years this year
Wow.
that I bought it from Jim. It was also featured in Corvette
I remember
Corner,
that place,
which was
too.
that was a well-known magazine back in the day. I think it was published up in Long Island, I believe, by a group of
Okay, there was a
enthusiasts.
Corvette Corner used car lot around here somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
there
was
was.
thinking of.
Okay.
If anybody knows where that was at, you can call us here at Wheels in Motion or text me. But
And it was featured
wow,
as a centerfold in that magazine. And also, there it is, that same photo posters used to be, at one time, popular
yeah,
of cars. People
my
would hang
gosh,
them on
look
their
at that.
bedroom walls or garage or whatever. And here it is,
There it
the
is
same,
again.
same photo.
wow.
And, yeah, and
And where is it? Like late '70s?
this was 1970, this was taken. this was 1976, April 76.
76 is
They
the
took
date.
all the centerfolds from
Yep.
the car
Right.
and made a poster out of
Right,
it.
Neat.
and last year was yeah, that's when that was printed.
I had trouble finding that. I had the magazine, but I didn't picture, but I didn't have the
Yeah. And
poster.
this is one of the many things that Jim had given me
I
when
gave him the
bought the car.
trophies because I
How
had
about
the car and
these?
the trophies.
These where'd these come from?
I built this from an old AMT model kit
Cool.
that I'd found in a hardware store, actually, languishing on the shelf, and I thought, ooh, that is
That's it.
mine. And I
It's no
actually,
Press White.
Yeah. I mixed up the colors and airbrushed it to
Well,
match the car.
I hate to say it, guys, but we're out of time already. But
yeah.
Okay.
I think we got a lot covered on this beautiful '59 Corvette. I wanted to thank you guys for coming out here to Wheels of Motion.
Yeah,
And
thanks for
to
inviting
the
us,
show
Mike.
on Car Stories. This is what it's about.
It is.
If you know anybody else with a story that's half as good as this one, please, get in contact with me and we'll have it on our show. So Eastwood sponsors Car Stories here on PCTV. They're right up on Shoemaker Road. They have all kind of tools, paint for working on your car. These are 2 new tools that they have. This one-man brake bleeding kit. And Joe, our guest tonight, actually works there, and he wrote the instructions for it. So if you're looking for something like that, check it out at Eastwood. It's brand new. They just started carrying it, so you can bleed your brakes without calling the wife out into the garage. The other thing is a screw buster. Kind of a neat concept. It's got your Phillips, got your flat, it's got the handle on it, so you can really get a grip on those stubborn screws like the door check screws. Right here in Pottstown at Eastwood. They do a lot of business over the internet, but we're lucky enough to have them here. So check out Eastwood on Shoemaker Road in Pottstown. Wow, what a great episode tonight on Car Stories. I want to thank Joe and Jim for coming over and sharing the great story about the '59 Corvette. So I'll see you next month here on PCTV for another episode of Car Stories.